Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of season 3, episode 5 of Youth Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Carmen, and today I'm continuing my conversation with Brenna, the youth leader of Youth Move Nevada. And in this part, we continue discussing more of her experiences, her insights, and what youth leadership looks like in action. Thank you for joining us for part 2. We hope you enjoy.
Nevada also faces some unique challenges that maybe not other states might face. I did not spend my whole life in Nevada. I actually spent some of my time, like half my life here, half my life in Washington State. And I think I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because of the way our state is, how rural it maybe is, or like just also it's hot as ever out here. And, I feel like there's this like lack of like community connection here. Like, I don't know. And this is like I said, this is like a own personal gripe,
Mm.
just
Honestly, yeah, keep going.
you know what I mean? Like
I feel
we're
like I
like
feel
we're
like
all in this
everyone's
together
feeling
kind of
that.
mentality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, it does make me wonder because you were talking about that Surgeon General report, which focused on
Mhm.
isolation and loneliness.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot in Colorado and rural communities in a state that's so rural. And you just mentioned, although
Yeah,
it's a
it feels
personal
that way.
experience, but like you
Yeah.
feel that,
Yeah.
right? The lack of community, lack
Mhm.
of social connection. I can't remember what I read in that. I was just reading that thing because I was creating a toolkit for Mental Health Awareness Month, and it was something like social connection, like lack in social connection was. I don't want to misquote it. Essentially, what it was, I think, trying to say is it plays a really large component in like these lifelong, like potential illnesses we might see. Like it
Mhm.
increases your risk of like diabetes, I think was one of them. And like these other, things as well. There was a pretty jarring, uh, I don't know if it was a data point. It felt a little dramatized, but I think it was trying to relay the point that like social connection is really important. Because I think it was saying like lacking social connection is like almost equal to like smoking 10 cigarettes a day was something that I found in there, and I found that to be like, whoa, really
Yeah.
startling.
Yeah.
But it is true. Like I believe that healing happens in and within relationships,
Mm.
like we're not meant to be like everyone says this, but it's really true and it's hard to do, but we're social creatures,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's this interesting dynamic of like sometimes people think the more rural you live, there's sometimes a
The
misconception of like, oh, the tighter knit the community is, and like wow, there have been places where I've lived where that is true. That's not the case in
right.
many small towns that I've lived in. Yeah.
I guess I never really thought about that, and I know that that is probably a whole nother episode we could do a podcast on, but it kinda makes sense actually because my dad and my grandparents, like, they lived in a rural part of Nevada called Pahrump. It's really not that far from Vegas, it's like 45 minutes, but it takes us, like, 20 minutes just to get to, a Walmart, and, like, everyone owns a big plot of land, neighbors are miles away, and although they have little, like, suburb communities out there, it's really disconnected, like, unless you are making friends with your, next door neighbor or somebody behind you.
Right.
I I I mean, if you're already feeling that isolated and disconnected, like, living in a place that almost is, like, the perfect environment for it, it's
Right. Right.
yeah, but
Totally.
yeah, anyways, so to get back yeah, to get back
To
that's
get
a
back
whole
to, yeah, I
yeah.
like it was really important to mention.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Because, I mean, going into kinda, like, the unique challenges that even our chapter faces, I mean, that's one of them, definitely like being able to reach youth that are in rural areas, but also I think a challenge that we face is like making sure young people and families know that we exist, and also that their voices are welcome, because a lot of youth have those valuable perspectives and lived experiences, but they just might not realize there are opportunities to share their voice and create change. Also, there are youth that are like, I just want a group that I can hang out with and, learn more, or like have that social connection without the pressure on them. And so
Right.
I would say, yeah, that's something. It's like the awareness is always a challenge. And again, the rural nature of Nevada, that's always a challenge because it just ties into, youth and families knowing that we're here for them. I will say, to address that, I said it a little earlier in the episode, but we have those virtual meetings so that young people can participate no matter where they live. We are a statewide chapter, but we're trying, best to make it as inclusive as possible. And so we want to make sure young people from rural areas, really any community in Nevada, has that opportunity to share their voice, because
Mhm.
they often face unique challenges when it comes to accessing those supports and services. And so I'd say, like, for Youth Move, when I'm thinking about like what challenges are we facing, not Nevada as a whole, but like our chapter as a whole, I would say that, or I guess those are definitely some, but we, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Well, you mentioned, and I think this goes hand in hand with something else I wanted to ask, which was engaging young people in your state day to day. It sounds like one of them is making sure you're accessible, your meetings are virtual. What else does that look like day in and day out?
Yeah, I mean, for us, engaging youth really just means that they have a variety of ways to be involved.
Okay.
So that could look like joining our meetings. And at our meetings, they share their feedback on different topics. And they also help us shape what we focus on as a chapter. So they'll choose podcast ideas, meeting topics for the next month, what they want to see on our social media. They really are like given that power to help guide the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And so we involve youth in, deciding all of the topics and priorities. So one, I mean, they have that real decision-making power. And so like that's a way that they can get involved and have that meaningful involvement. I would say though, we try to give young people a bunch of different ways to get involved, because we want to make sure that the way that we are offering them to be engaged is what they feel most comfortable with. And so that might look like joining a conversation during the meeting, or responding to one of our polls, or sharing their thoughts in a chat. We also encourage youth to stay engaged in the ways that they feel comfortable. So we'll like check in on them, get their feedback on the ways that they learn best, as well as the ways that they feel most comfortable being contacted or something, like, and we always want our conversations to be meaningful with them. And so we have them tell us, what's the best way that they learn. And, we do that through our periodic polls that we launch during our meetings, and just make sure we are staying updated and always adapting to the way that they want to engage with us. And I will say some other ways that they can get involved with us, because it's not just our meeting. Like that was kind of like a rundown of like how they can be involved in our meetings, but we have a bunch of different ways that they can be involved. Like I had briefly mentioned, we also have a podcast, so young people can come on our podcast, share their voice. We have had plenty of times that youth are featured on our social media. Either we're doing some sort of social media campaign, or, they send us posts that they want to post, or even sometimes we'll make social media in our meetings. Say it's like a mental health toolkit. We will have, as a group, we will fill out this, template that I made for them to fill out on tips and tricks, for your mental health. And that's coming straight from young people. And so
They're they're informed.
they're the ones,
Those
that are
they're
like,
creating.
yep.
Okay, yeah. So
And
it's creating. Okay.
those are always my favorite posts as well, because I'm like, look what we did. It's not just, the youth move, Youth Move staff, we're having our Youth Move members very involved. And sorry, I can go on and talk about this forever, but we also do contests. And I think lots of people don't realize that there are so many different forms of youth engagement, youth voice, and our contests. We recently had a bullying prevention poster contest. We had a mental health video contest last year. And so even them just submitting their art or submitting their video, that's a way that they share their voice. And we're like connector too for the youth for a lot of different community opportunities. And so that's, a lot of different organizations will do contests or they're looking for feedback from the youth. And so we give those youth the opportunities to get involved in things that are going on. We also will do youth panels. And so not a lot of times, we have some youth that will always come to our meetings, but we also have some youth that are more interested in sharing their voice on a panel. And so we will normally do a youth panel at least once a year. Last year I did 2, or not that I did, I facilitated 2. And even the information to attend a systems meeting, which is like a whole nother thing, for you to get involved, which I can, expand on a little bit. But yeah, just a long list.
Yeah.
of
So
the
those are
ways.
so in terms of variety of ways for youth to be involved, this is your chapter, this is your membership. So this isn't necessarily your staff members. This is people that are an extension of the work that you're doing and interested in being involved in what you do. Some of the things you mentioned are they could join your meetings and help provide, ideas for what podcast y'all should do or what social media posts you could do. They might respond to polls or surveys. They might even want to facilitate a podcast themselves. They might even create
Right.
toolkits.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, our meetings, aren't, we are a peer-led group. And so really I let them, although I will be there to facilitate the meeting, that's their space, we want them to learn those leadership skills and be able to speak up. And so we really harp on this is for them. They have that power to make decisions, to guide discussions. And so, yeah, we really try to give them as much opportunity as possible to be able to engage, within our chapter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then your staff members, what are they doing? Are they also overlapping with this work and helping facilitate like you are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say everything that I've listed for you to be involved, it goes the same for us.
For the staff,
Except,
okay.
Obviously we're on the back end and, doing the work, going to the systems meetings and, creating social media content consistently, but all of the same opportunities that the young people that are our youth move members, our staff members have that same level of opportunity.
Something you mentioned, and I would love to ask a question about it because it's just really relevant to some projects we've worked on at Youth Move Colorado or things we've been involved in. But you mentioned that sometimes your chapter will attend many different systems level meetings each month to kind of, it sounds like, to represent the youth perspective on an issue. So it sounds like you'll go into a meeting with probably other adults or different organizations, maybe child welfare organization or a behavioral health organization, and your group will come on and kind of share the perspectives of youth. And we've done a lot of that in the past, and I'm really curious what your experience has been like doing that. Are people generally receptive to youth voice in those spaces? Are they reticent to kind of accept what's being said? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a lot of what Youth Move Nevada does. And I will just say it's very empowering to bring youth voice into those spaces. And a lot of the times I am the only one in the meeting that can represent young people because these meetings most of the time are held during school hours, so a youth might not be able to attend, although we give them that opportunity to attend. There have been some youth who will be able to, take an hour off of class to come to a meeting that's really important to them. But yeah, people are normally very receptive to youth voice. A lot of the times, people are seeking out what young people have to say and what ideas or perspectives that they have. At the same time, I think there's still an opportunity to strengthen really like how youth feedback is engaged in the meetings. So sometimes, I share really meaningful insights from young people and there are good conversations around it. And other times I share some feedback from the youth or, I share the youth voice and it's acknowledged and recorded in the meeting minutes. And then the conversation moves on. So there's definitely an opportunity to build more dialogue surrounding youth voice, which kind of brings me, and I love to give some examples too of really how youth voice has been successfully integrated into some of the systems and, organizations that we work with, which I know you're familiar with the YVAL, right? And so
Is
we
youth voice for
voice,
people that don't know, youth voice at the
yeah,
agency level, and it's a
yeah,
survey. I'll let you explain it.
yeah. So, well, what we do is we actually have a training for professionals, which we call youth voice at agency level. And so what we do is the YVAL is actually a tool. So it's an assessment tool for your organization to know where you are in engaging youth and how you can improve on it. And so it's a constant effort to improve professional understanding around the importance of youth voice. And we kind of were talking about this earlier in the episode, but we work really closely with our system of care team here in Nevada. Also work really closely with Nevada Medicaid. And so both have seen the training, have taken the training for YVAL, and some examples, I guess, an example of, for example, like the system of care team. So Youth in Nevada has been like an active part of the Nevada system of care data collection team. It's a whole thing. I'm sure if you're hearing, you're like, what the heck is that? But essentially, UNR, the University of Nevada, Reno, they're on the team. So this whole team, Nevada System of Care, Youth Move, a whole bunch of people are currently gathering data to really better understand whether services across our state are meeting the needs of children and youth with co-occurring intellectual and developmental disabilities and behavioral health challenges and their families. So the whole thing. And so we have been on that team from the start. We participated in planning the needs assessment to determine the focus work of the grant. We also determined that youth focus groups would be part of that whole process. And so we worked with the team at UNR to create focus group questions that were youth friendly. And then we co-facilitated those focus groups to gather those firsthand perspectives from the youth. And then we gave that input on how the findings were, compiled into the needs assessment report. So most importantly, Youth Move, like we were invited to give input on the full report that they had to do. And so I think this is a really good example of, how we, like as Youth Move Nevada staff members in this chapter, are more like we are involved. We're the young people. We are the youth voice too, and so we were considered, not we, youth voice was considered like in the needs assessment, but we're also partnering with UNR to gather ongoing input throughout this like grant period. And so it's just shows like working together with, different community organizations, different systems. And so, we ended up helping them develop questions for interviews of youth that are involved in this program that's going to be happening. And then we also meet monthly, like the whole data collection team meets monthly to review results. And then we consider like how that feedback could be used to improve services. And I'm a part of that team, so it's great.
That's great.
I know we're coming close here on time, but I just want to give another quick example because
Wait, so
when
I just want to real quick, just so I'm clarifying. So one thing that y'all help with in terms of kind of helping organizations bring youth voice to their organization or assess where they're at is the YVAL tool. So you help
Mhm.
kind of introduce that to them
Yeah.
and help them take that. Another thing y'all are a part of has been this partnership with UNR. What does UNR stand for again?
University of Nevada. It's like a
University of
whole like
Nevada.
team
Okay.
of system of care
Okay. So you're part of like a
grantees,
system
I
of
think.
care, kind
Yeah.
of like research study, almost kind of collecting data, compiling, creating
Yeah.
report, maybe possibly some like advocacy or policy change coming out of those reports as well. And y'all are a part of that as well.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and I think this specifically, like, it's for our grant because we are like, a part of that. All of us are like a part of the system of care grant. But, and I do believe that the youth voice at agency level training by Youth in Nevada, like, this is a training that we can give to providers, organizations, programs, all of them as a
Mm.
part of our system of care grant. And it allows us to do that like technical assistance and really help
Oh, okay.
organizations. Yeah, like
Okay. So this is
improve.
all underneath that umbrella, the YVAL, this UNR
Yeah,
study. Okay. Under the system.
all of it together because it's all encompassing,
Yeah.
of involving youth
Mm.
at different levels. And so I wanted to quickly give another example because I actually, so like we were kind of talking about, Youth Move, we attend a whole bunch of different system level meetings, like a lot. And one of the meetings that we go to is the Nevada Medicaid Children's Behavioral Health Transformation Work Group, which is a mouthful, but essentially,
Nevada Medicaid group. Okay.
yeah, yeah, we could call it that.
I'm
So
going to shorten
essentially,
it.
yeah, that whole group is really focused on, so it really came out of the DOJ settlement that was here in Nevada. Basically saying like we need more services for this certain like focused population. And that whole group is working towards improving services, expanding coverage for youth, which I want to give the wrong definition here, but I believe it's youth with those intellectual and developmental disabilities. Kind of the same thing that was going on with the Nevada system of care. Anyways, the whole reason why I'm saying that is because I was actually the youth representative on that work group. And so I, again, was like the one bringing the youth voices directly into those decision making spaces. And so last September, Nevada Medicaid hosted a youth and family voice summit, and that focused specifically on care coordination. So, in preparation of that summit, I had several check ins with the Nevada Medicaid team to go over like any questions I had ahead of time. And this is me, like, I'm like the only young person in this space. And so
Yeah.
it was like really intimidating, but they asked for my feedback and they even put that feedback like into the final agenda. So I felt genuinely included and confident that I was a valued member of the team. And so I kind of had that like firsthand experience of like how empowering it could be to be a youth and to be in these spaces and to be given a chance to share. And so at the summit, I had shared the youth feedback we gathered from young people across the state about what care coordination should look like in Nevada. And that feeds shaping and informing the policy and program improvements that are happening like right now. And
Can you
yeah, and
remember one of the points, one of the pieces of feedback? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
yeah, I think like from the youth perspective, it was explaining like the care services, any of the forms, all of it to be more youth friendly. I don't know if you've ever been in conversations around
oh
care
yeah,
coordination,
yeah,
but it could be
huge.
so overwhelming,
Yes.
so overwhelming. And so just like keeping the youth, being respectful to the youth, allowing them a space, to share their voice, but also like explaining to them what is going on and keeping them informed, keeping them a part of the planning and at these meetings, I'm pretty sure they're a required member of the team. This is about their care, but doing it in a way that, we could understand. And so
Right.
I would say from the youth perspective, there were so many.
Yeah.
There was a lot of great feedback that they gave, but
Wonderful. Wow.
I also have horrible
Yeah.
memories. So that was the first one I could think of.
No, that's wonderful. Well, gosh, This is really exciting. It really sounds like your state, at least the organizations that you've mentioned, have this really unique understanding and honestly just merit. Like, I think a lot of states, Colorado aspires to this as well, or I think in a way, like, wishes or relationships with adult partners were exactly what you're describing, like treated just like any other partner.
Yes,
We
as an
say we're
equal,
as an
yeah,
equal, like we
valued
say
partner.
we're a youth led, essentially nonprofit, right? But for whatever reason, the youth at the beginning, like it really, like, I think sometimes like adult organizations like see that word and they have this whole idea of like, oh, the work won't be as good, or like the feedback
Mhm.
won't be as thought through, and it's just like totally not true,
Yeah.
like at all. And anyway, so I think it's inspiring for me to hear these really positive stories that you're sharing, like being in these spaces. Okay, so I'm gonna pause and kind of ask this closing question because I know we're kind of at time and we could keep going, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. But kind of zooming back out to like your chapter as a whole, what would you say are like a couple of the things you're like most excited for the future of your chapter?
I would just say I am really excited about the continued growth of our chapter.
Mm.
I've only been in this chapter for 2 years, and since I've been involved in it, we have come a long way. And so I'm excited to keep building on that momentum, growing the
Yeah.
awareness of our chapter. I'm really just empowering more young people across the state to
Mm.
use their voice to help shape those changes that they want to see.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I'm sure also folks are going to want to get in touch with you or your chapter and what y'all are doing. What's the best way that they can do that?
Follow us on Instagram and then DM me. No, I'm just kidding. You can
You
find
are
us
the
right.
DM queen, aren't you? I heard that's how a lot of the communication happens on your chapters.
DMing is the best. Anyways, I will go off of this tangent. You can find us at Youth Move NV on anything. Instagram is probably the best form of communication. We also have an email, so I don't know if this will be something that you put in the chat, but we have our Youth Move email. That's youthmovenv at Nevada PEP, so nvpep.org. And so you can shoot us an email, send us a DM, but also make sure to give us a follow because I won't respond to you if you don't. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's where you can find us. That's how you can contact us. And well, I just want to say thank you so much for having us on today.
Yeah.
It feels so great connecting with you. I mean, you're so far and you see all these, different unique challenges that your state has, but at the end of the day, all over, young people need that space to speak up and be involved in creating that change in all spaces. And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I have had a great time being a guest on a podcast for a change.
Yeah, it's been great having you. And honestly, it's been really, I feel your passion through the screen. I think others will too. And thank you so much for what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.